Hey guys, it's Chris. Mermaids are one of the creatures of legend that many wonder if they're real. From Zimbabwe to Israel, here are 9 stories of mermaid sightings from around the world. Number 9. Kiryat Yam's Mermaids. You might think that this list is host to a bunch of legendary sightings from centuries long ago, but in fact, some of them are very recent. For example, this story from 2009. Yep, the era of modern technology. In Kiryat Yam, Israel, a sighting of a mermaid on a beach started a city-wide hunt for the creature. This all started when one of the people of Kiryat Yam went to a beach and saw the mermaid. Apparently, she was sunbathing. That's cool, huh? I guess even mermaids need to get some sun occasionally, right, Ariel? Anyway, upon being spotted, the mermaid went into the water and out of sight. But the sightings didn't stop there. In fact, they just started. More and more locals came to the spot, and around dusk, the mermaid would occasionally appear, helping fuel mermaid fever. It's hard to blame them. Seeing a sight like that, it'd be special for sure. In fact, the fever got so crazy that the town council of Kiryat Yam offered $1 million reward to anyone who could get definitive proof that the mermaid existed. Sadly, and somewhat obviously, no proof was ever found, and the legend continues. Number 8. Columbus and the Mermaids. Depending on who you believe, the legend of mermaids were started by fishermen and sailors. After all, on long voyages at sea with a male crew, it's hard to not want to see a woman of any kind. Which leads me to one of the most famous cases of mermaid spotting, and it was done by none other than Christopher Columbus. That's right, the famous and infamous explorer documented a sighting of mermaids off the coast of the Caribbean. But hold on, there's a catch here. Most legends state that mermaids are rather beautiful, but the ones that Columbus saw was anything but. In fact, they were mannish in quality and chubby, practically deformed. Now, some may question whether Columbus really saw anything. But then that would raise the question of why he documented anything at all. He had nothing to gain from it, so why lie? Another explanation that is more plausible is that he saw certain sea creatures, mainly manatees and dugongs, possibly covered in seaweed to make them look like they had hair. Yet another question is now raised. How did Columbus, a seasoned sailor, not notice he was looking at sea creatures? Well, no one really knows. And unless someone can talk to Columbus from the beyond, we likely won't ever know. Number 7. MAYNE mermaid. Here's another tale of a mermaid spotting that caused a town to get into a bit of a frenzy. This one, though, happened in British Columbia, Canada, specifically near Maine Island. And it all started when a ferry was working its way around the island, when suddenly, the passengers were looking at the shoreline. Why? Well, it appeared that a topless blonde woman was there, which usually would be enough to get people looking. But as they looked closer, they believed that the woman was eating a raw salmon. And when they looked at her legs, she had the tail of a dolphin or porpoise. The sightings didn't stop there, though. The next week, another group of passengers on that same ferry saw the mermaid again. Naturally, this got the town into a fever, as they wanted desperately to know if the mermaid was real, or just a play on their imaginations. The town paper, known as the Colonist, put up a $25,000 reward for the mermaid's capture. And keep in mind, it was 1967 when this happened, so that was a lot of money back then. Funnily enough, after the capture of the mermaid, the townspeople were gonna have her live in the town itself. I guess that's kind of them. Sadly, she was never caught, and many feel this was a ploy for tourism or attention. Number 6. Zimbabwe mermaids. Here's another recent one, and one that will definitely test you in regard to what you think you can believe. In 2012, in Zimbabwe, dam was being built by local workers. Everything sounds normal so far, right? Well, it was, until a mermaid showed up and started to harass the workers. No, seriously, these particular mermaids were called Mamba Muntu. And once they arrived, the workers fled. Why? Well, in Zimbabwe legend, the Mamba Muntu are a bad omen, and you don't mess with those. So what was the country to do? Well, a local council hired some non-locals to finish the work. In their minds, this was a case of superstition leading to an illogical conclusion. Foreigners wouldn't have that. Then the new workers fled as well, citing that the mermaid was there and that she was very mad at them. Fed up with this, the council then ordered that rituals be held at the dams in order to cleanse the area and allow construction to continue. And nothing happened after that. So what was the Mamba Muntu? Was it really a mermaid or something else? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 5. Kaiman. Let's stick with Africa for a bit, but this time we're going to South Africa, where a legend grew in 2008 in the form of the Kaiman, which is their form of the mermaid. A group of friends in the country were going on a camping trip, and they set up camp near a river. One day, though, they heard noises coming from the river, ones that didn't make sense for fish or other aquatic animals of that river, so they went to investigate, and they eventually saw a woman in the river. But something was off about this woman. Her skin seemed to glow, and when she turned around to face the group, her eyes were red, like all red. It was also noted that she gave a sorrowful cry when spotted. After a while, the Kaiman went back into the water, and it hasn't been seen since. In the lore, the Kaiman aren't the nicest creatures. They'll actually lure you into the water and then drag you down into the depths, giving you objects that you desire. Needless to say, the sighting got a lot of attention, and a lot of people in South Africa are wondering if their legend just truly came to life. Number 4. Death of a mermaid. When you think of Scotland, you likely go toward the legend of another mythical creature. But in fact, the country has one of the most interesting mermaid tales of the lot, and that's saying something. In 1830, the town of Benbecula was enjoying their time on a nearby beach, when suddenly a woman saw something in the water. It was a miniature woman, which is why Scots believe are the size of mermaids. The woman alerted her fellow townspeople, and they tried to capture the mermaid but failed. In the process, though, some boys were able to throw rocks at it, and some of them hit. A couple of days later, the mermaid washed up on shore, dead. She had a scaleless fishtail and was like the legends depicted her to be. After realizing what they had done, the town sheriff declared that they were to give the mermaid a proper burial. And so they did, and they buried her on the beach itself. Here's the rub. Even though the story has been told for generations, no one can find the grave. That's not to say it didn't happen, but if no one can find it, you have to wonder if it did. Number 3. Orang Ikan. Here's a story that belongs on Ripley's Believe It or Not, and for all the right reasons. In World War II, around 1943, Japan was fortifying itself in the region of the Indian Ocean, and they had even set up a base in the KIRY Islands of Indonesia. Specifically, they put a surveillance group there to monitor things on the islands. Sure enough, they started to see things, but not regular things. Weird things. One instance saw them viewing a humanoid creature emerging from the water, but when they looked closer, it had spines on its neck, and its mouth was that of a carp. The creature was continually seen in the waters of the island, and the more it popped up, the more the surveillance team was desperate to figure out what was going on. Eventually, the people of the KIRY Islands revealed that the creature was an orang ikan, or a human fish, and one day they invited one of the soldiers named Taro Horiba to come to their village. When he did, he was shown a captured orang ikan. So why isn't the orang ikan a documented part of the world? Well, Horiba tried to bring in zoologists to the village to check out the creature, but no one believed him. So for all we know, there's a human fish swimming in Indonesia, believe it or not. Number 2. Mystery in New Zealand. From one of the oldest entries on the list to one of the most recent, an event in New Zealand in 2014 is causing a stir even to this day. So what happened? Well, a group of fishermen were doing their jobs when suddenly they came across a skeleton. Rightfully concerned, they went to deliver the body, thinking they had found the victim of a crime. But as they looked closer at the skeleton, something didn't quite add up. Because while parts of it looked human, the rest didn't. The South Island where the skeleton was found went rampant with news and wonder about what exactly was found. It was clear to some that the skeleton resembled one who had aquatic features, like a mermaid. But without seeing the body in its prime form, all they could do was speculate. When the authorities couldn't unravel the mystery, the University of Auckland was brought in to help sort everything out, and they're still researching what it could be. Number 1. HUDSON'S site. And now, from the most recent sighting to one of the oldest. I'm talking 1608 here, and in Norway. On the Bering Sea, the one in Norway, not near Alaska, a man named Henry Hudson was doing some sailing and exploring when suddenly a mermaid popped up next to his ship. She apparently saw him and the rest of his crew and called up some of her fellow mermaids to gaze upon them. He wrote down in his journal just how they looked, and it lines up with how the mermaids of many cultures have been described. Now you might be thinking, isn't this the same thing that happened to Columbus? Didn't he see manatees or dugongs? And that would be a logical assumption. However, there are no manatees or dugongs in that area. None at all. What's more, many have argued that Hudson wouldn't have mistaken animals for women given his experience on the sea. So the question remains, did he actually see mermaids? Or was there something else going on? Regardless, the legend of the mermaid persists, and it's not dying anytime soon. Thanks for watching. What did you think of these sightings? Do you think any of them are legit? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on World List.